Here are my NBA West playoff predictions for the 2019-2020 season. Now, if you saw the last episode, I gave my predictions on the Eastern Conference standings and who I thought was going to be going to the NBA Finals. Well, on this journey, I'm going to be predicting the NBA's 2020 Western Conference standings, and I'm going to break down who I think is going to go to the NBA Finals. Stick around. Welcome back to Journey of a Ballaholic, the best talk show for basketball addicts. I'm your host, General Hannibal X. Let's go ahead and jump right into the beginning of the video. We're going to start with the last place team at the 15th seed at a record of 18-64. I'm going with the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, the Grizzlies traded away Mike Conley so that they could give the keys of the castle to the young John Morant out of Murray State, and he can literally do it all. But he's going to need a lot of help from his big men in Jaren Jackson Jr. as well as Jonas Valanciunas. I think at the end of the day, Memphis is clearly building for the future, right? They added Tyus Jones, they even added Josh Jackson. At the end of the day, this young group is going to have to learn how to get their butts kicked on a nightly basis, because I just don't think they have enough talent to even be able to win 20 games this season. We'll have to stick it out and see how it works out, though. Next up at number 14, with a record of 25-57, the Phoenix Suns. Listen, Devin Booker, he has the potential to be a star. But at the end of the day, I hope he can get out of Phoenix soon. I'm talking ASAP, man. The talent that's around this kid is just pathetic. And the management is even worse. Now, granted, they do have DeAndre Ayton, which they kind of lucked into with that number 1 pick. But he's talented, and he's only going to get better. They went out and got Shooter, which was much needed. They got Cam Johnson. They even brought in Dario Saric, although those pieces were kind of brought in at a high price. At the end of the day, the West specifically, but the NBA in general, you got to have talent. And the Phoenix Suns just don't have enough talent to be able to compete. This team right here, man, is going to be at the bottom of the barrel yet again. And unfortunately, it seems like Devin Booker's future and the Phoenix Suns together, it's just a recipe that's kind of going nowhere fast, man. Coming in at number 13 with a record of 30-52, the OKC Thunder. You talk about an offseason shakeup, you go from Russell Westbrook and Paul George to an old CP3 and Danilo Gallinari. Yikes. I mean, granted, I understand what OKC's doing, and then maybe we've been put in a sticky situation when all these trade requests came at the last minute during the offseason. At the end of the day, OKC's future, it looks good. I mean, they got a ton of draft picks that they can help to build around, but at the end of the day, that's not going to help them win games this year. So I got them as one of the bottom teams, but I'm hoping that Chris Paul can get out of OKC, and I'm talking about as soon as possible. I would love to see him go over to the East, maybe even with the Miami Heat. But until then, he's stuck on this lottery team, and I kind of hate seeing this for him, especially this late in his career. But if he wasn't on this team, they would probably be the last place team on this standings. But as of right now, I got them at number 13 with a record of 30-52. Next up at number 12 at 33-49, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Man, listen, this Minnesota team is so puzzling. You had Kevin Garnett for all of those years and you won nothing. No championships. Didn't even make the finals. Now you got Karl Anthony Towns, another young stud, 6'11", 7 feet, go inside, outside. He can rim protect. I mean, he can do it all. And you're doing nothing with this guy's his career. Don't be surprised if Karl Towns leaves Minnesota in a couple years. They got Andrew Wiggins beside him. What has he turned into? Like, Jeff T. I mean, the Jimmy Butler experiment didn't work. I don't get this Minnesota roster. I don't get where they're trying to go. I mean, once again, they're in a similar situation as Phoenix with Devin Booker. Karl Towns has potential to be a superstar. He has that. He's already made all NBA teams. He's been an all-star. Like, he has that ability. But you have to put the right pieces, not just any players around. You got to put the right pieces. The nice mix of veteran leadership as well as young studs that he can grow with. I'm not seeing it. Now, granted, I will give them credit. They did draft Jared Culver out of Texas Tech, and I think he can be a nice two-way spark off the bench to be able to kind of give them a little jolt on both ends of the court. But you're going to need more than that. The West has gotten better. It's much tougher to win in this year's West. I got them, once again, another lottery team outside looking in. Moving on to number 11 at 40-42, I got the Sacramento Kings. Now, this is a young core that I really, really like. I love the addition of Luke Walton with his up-tempo, high-paced system. I think it's going to fit perfectly with De'Aaron Fox, the little speedy point guard who loves to get up and down the court. I think that Buddy Hield and Marvin Bagley, I think they're going to take another step. The talent is there for those two guys. Listen, this Sacramento Kings team is probably 2 years from being a playoff team. But unlike those other teams that I've already named, this young team is building the right way and they're headed in the right direction. At number 10, also with a record of 40 and 42, I got the new look New Orleans Pelicans. Man, you want to talk about a makeover in the best possible way? David Griffin deserves a ton of credit. This man took lemons and turned them into lemonade. Out goes Anthony Davis and in comes superstar potential in Zion Williamson. If you didn't see my video I did on Zion, click the card above and check out just how much of a superstar I think he can be. This guy has special written all over him. But unlike a lot of other stars that come into the NBA, Zion's come in and he doesn't have to be the star right away, which is immense for his success. This guy's coming in with a point guard, a true pass-first point guard in Lonzo Ball. Then you give him legitimate scores so that he doesn't have to worry about that pressure. And a guy like Brandon Ingram and even Drew Holiday, they can carry that scoring load. And what David Griffin did so well is he surrounded this young talent, this young core. He surrounded them with quality veterans, good locker room guys. A guy like JJ Redick, a guy who can play off the ball, doesn't need a lot of attention. He's gonna do and say all the right things in and off the court. You give this guy who can space the floor and give Zion the lane that he needs to kind of get into the paint. It's a perfect addition. Even a big man like Derek Favors, a big man who's able to help Zion out on both ends of the court. Listen, this Pelicans team, this is my sleeper team. This team here, I think, is probably 2 to 3 years away from being a playoff team. But out of all the best, like the young cores, this is probably the best of all those young teams. Coming in at number 9 with 45 wins and 37 losses and just barely missing the playoffs, I'm going with the Dallas Mavericks. Listen, Luka Doncic is the real deal. He averaged 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists last year as a rookie. You add to that young man a 7'3" unicorn in Kristaps Porzingis, a guy who can dominate on both ends of the court when he's healthy, and clearly all this record and these predictions on the caveat that he is going to be healthy. You add those two together, that's a dynamic duo. Then give them a guy like Seth Curry, an elite shooter to help space the floor. This is a very underrated pickup. People slept on this move. Big Boban to come off the bench. Look at his efficiency when he's on the court. He doesn't play a lot of minutes, but to be able to spell Kristaps, to be able to come in and play the center or play beside him sometimes, that size, the size that they could put out there on the court. The Dallas Mavericks are a team that's going to, like I say, just barely miss the playoffs. But don't be surprised if they make the playoffs. They're that good, and they're well coached with Rick Carlisle. Okay, down to the last 8. And coming in at the 8th seed with a record of 47 wins and 35 losses, I'm going with the San Antonio Spurs. Greg Popovich and the Spurs have a hell of a consecutive playoff streak, but it's going to be severely tested this year. Those young Kings, Mavs, and Pelicans I just talked about, they're going to be at the Spurs' neck, week in and week out. But granted, Pop is Pop, and he still has 2 All-Stars. So at the end of the day, that should be enough to make the playoffs. But we've seen stranger things happen, as we just saw Greg Popovich in his FIBA games lead a USA team to a 7th seed. Granted, the NBA is different. Greg Popovich is going to have time to truly shape and mold this Spurs team into his team. So it should be a playoff team. But they got to get better. Their offense and defense has to get better, specifically from the three-point. Now granted, they were number 1 in three-point percentage last year, but they were dead last in three-point attempts last year. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it for a team that wants to make the playoffs in the tough West this year. Also, defensively, you got to get better. They were last in the league in steals. They don't have an elite rim protector still on their roster. LaMarcus Aldridge can defend, but he's not a rim protector. They got to get better, man, and they didn't make the necessary moves in the offseason, in my opinion, to truly get better. Granted, they do have DeJounte Murray coming back. He's going to help out immensely, especially in that steals department and on-ball pressure. At the end of the day, man, I think the Spurs and the talent that they have, I think it's going to get them to the playoffs. But I got them getting swept in the first round by the 1 seed. On to the 7th seed. Now, this is where things going to get real interesting, as I think that there are 7 legit teams that can argue that they got better over the summer. But moving on to the 7th seed with a record of 48 wins and 34 losses, I'm going with the Portland Trail Blazers. I know, I'm sure this is going to be a shock to people, especially after them big back-to-back years of being the 3rd seed and making the Western Conference Finals just last year. But listen, the West has gotten so much better. Now granted, I do love the addition of Hassan Whiteside. I think that the rim protection that he's going to bring and the quality depth that they'll have at that center position, especially when Nurkic comes back, I like that. But it's those other positions that I'm not necessarily too sure about. When you can lose guys like Seth Curry, Enes Kanter, Mo Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu, those guys I think fit better as role players than the guys that they replaced them with. At the end of the day, Portland's they're too talented to not make the playoffs. And I think they'll be the 7th seed. But I got them losing in the first round in 5 games. Next up at the 6th seed at 49-33, I'm going with the Golden State Warriors. Listen, anytime you lose an MVP, Hall of Fame level talent like Kevin Durant, and then add on that the loss of Andre Iguodala, even role players like Quinn Cook, Sean Livingston, who just retired, DeMarcus Cousins, but more importantly, the injury to Klay Thompson. When you add all that up, the Warriors are you're not going to be a better team this year than you were last year. And I think that the regular season in particular is going to be a grind for them. Granted, it does help to have an MVP guy like Steph Curry who could put up MVP level numbers. A guy like Draymond Green who could put up all around type production. Now adding D'Angelo Russell I think was kind of underrated, but I like the pickup. He's going to help to be able to take Curry off the ball some, to be able to be a spot-up shooter, kind of fill in that gap while Klay Thompson is out. But if this team's going to make any noise in the playoffs, which I think they can, it's going to be dependent on the return of Klay Thompson. If he can come back by February, get in game shape by March, be kind of back into a swing by April, May comes around, I'm predicting that the Warriors not only will make the playoffs in the 6th seed, I'm predicting they're going to upset the 3rd seed. Now, they'll move on to the 2nd round. I think that's where the end of their season will come, when I think that they're going to lose in 5 or 6 games to the 2 seed. And at number 5, a team that had a major offseason. I'm predicting 50 wins and 32 losses for the Utah Jazz. Listen, I absolutely love the moves that Utah made. Adding Mike Conley to take the ball out of Mitchell's hand is only going to help his game grow. Having somebody to be able to facilitate and set him up, watch out. That backcourt right there is going to be special. And then an underrated pickup was adding the shooter Bojan Bogdanovic. That was a really good move. The defense is still going to be good, but this helped their offense out. Anytime you got the 2-time defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert, still man in the middle, they're going to be legit now on both ends. The only weakness and the biggest problem I have with this team is their bench. To me, it's just not sufficient. And I think that even though they're going to make the playoffs to be the 5th seed, I think that when they match up against the 4th seed, who I think is going to be just a bad matchup for them, that's why I got them losing in the first round in 6 games. All right, speaking of the 4th seed, with a record of 52-30, and probably the biggest surprise yet, I got the LA Clippers. Hold on. Listen, hear me out for a second before you run away. The Clippers had the biggest and best offseason of any team. Anytime you add a Finals MVP and Kawhi Leonard, and then add an additional All-Star and Paul George with that's one of the best duos in the NBA. Then you add on Pitbull Patrick Beverley. That trio is probably the best defensive perimeter trio that the game has seen since the 90s Bulls. That's not the question about them. They're going to be either the 1st or 2nd best defense in the entire league. The question I have with them is their interior. How do they defend guys like the Joker, like Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid? How do you defend those big guys? Montrezl Harrell, 6'8", is not a rebounder or rim protector. Zubac, that's not it. That's not going to cut it against starting all-star level big men. But the biggest issue I have with them is why I'm putting them at that 4th seed, is that Paul George is going to start the season out missing games due to the shoulder surgery he had. You add in the games that Kawhi Leonard is going to miss because he's never played 75 games in any season in his career, and you know he's going to do load management once again. They're going to have some chemistry issues. Once again, you're going to start the season with Paul George out. He comes back, you got to integrate him back into it. Kawhi Leonard's going to be in and out from time to time. I think the West is just too deep. There's too many talented teams that's going to have that training camp to kind of gel, to kind of mix, to get together. The Clippers, I think, are going to start behind the 8 ball. On top of that, when they make the playoffs, as that 4th seed, you're going to have a tough battle against the Utah Jazz. But I think they'll get past them. It's the 2nd seed, the 2nd round is where I think their season's going to come to an end. That matchup with that number 1 seed, it's just not a good matchup. And it's going to be close, and I think it'll be 7 hard-fought games. But because they don't have that home court advantage in that second round, I think that's where the season ends. Now we're down to the top 3. Coming in at that 3rd seed with a record of 55 wins and 27 losses, I'm going with the up-and-coming Denver Nuggets. I mean, what's not to love about this squad? They got a potential superstar in Jokic who last year averaged 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. Jamal Murray, he's going to only continue to get better as he had that deep playoff run that's going to give him a lot of experience. Those two are a legit duo. But it's that third option that I'm kind of worried about. I mean, who is it? Is it Paul Millsap? Is it Gary Harris? Neither one of those guys averaged more than 15 points during the regular season or the playoffs. Listen, in the NBA era that we're in now, where it's a lot about duos, Denver has a good duo. But other teams in the West, they've got great duos. And when you don't have that bona fide third option to help that duo out, it's going to be tough, especially in the playoffs. Granted, I think they're going to have an exceptional regular season run, which is why I have them at 55 wins in the 3rd seed. But when they get to the playoffs, even though they're going to have that 3rd seed, I think they're going to get a bad matchup when they have to play against the Golden State Warriors, who's going to have experience and talent and have been there before. I'm going with the Warriors to upset the Denver Nuggets in the 1st round in 6 games. Next up in number 2, coming in with 56 wins and 24 losses, I'm going with the LA Lakers. Listen, at the end of the day, talent reigns supreme, and the Lakers to me have the best duo in the league. They've got a healthy, a rested, and a motivated LeBron James, who last year, in his down year, put up 27 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. And you give him, who still is one of the best players in the game, a young phenom like Anthony Davis, who last year in his down year put up 26 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks. Man, that duo is going to terrorize the league. Think about this for a second. Think about LeBron James and Anthony Davis in a pick and roll. How do you stop that? If you put Dwight Howard in the dunker spot so that big can't help off, or just lob it right up to him, you put a guy like Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma or Avery Bradley, KCP, whoever, on the perimeter to kind of space the floor out. Man, this team is deep and they are experienced. When you've got guys like Rajon Rondo, Quinn Cook, Kyle Kuzma, JaVale McGee, all these guys coming off your bench, that's problems. Most teams that are top heavy don't have a solid bench. This team is deep and talented and experienced with about 5 guys who've either won a championship or been to the finals. And then think about this. I love the coaching. When you add guys like Lionel Hollins, who's defensive minded, Frank Vogel, who's defensive minded, Jason Kidd, one of the best defenders the game's ever seen. You add all of these guys, an underrated coach who was Phil Handy as well. The Lakers are going to be one of the best two-way teams in the league. And I think that when they meet the Portland Trailblazers in the 1st round, they're going to beat them boys in 5. I'm also predicting they're going to go to the 2nd round and beat the Golden State Warriors in 6, setting up a tough Western Conference Finals matchup. I think it's going to be hard fought, and I think they're going to battle that number 1 seed in a 7-game series. It's going to be tough. Last but not least, the number 1 seed. And I'm giving them 60 wins and 22 losses. I got the high power and the revamped Houston Rockets. Listen, they won 53 games last year. And that was with CP3 only playing in 58 out of 82 games. You hit the upgrade button and you give James Harden a superstar sensation like Russell Westbrook. Man, this thing about to get ugly. I mean, these two together, listen, they're not doing no load management. They ain't gonna be at the opponent's net game after game. And they have that ability where they can take turns one after the other. But what I really like about this squad, what I truly like about them, is that in that high-powered D'Antoni offense, if you put the ball in Russell Westbrook's hand, who's averaged a triple-double the last 3 seasons, he's going to be able to get into the paint and hit those open shooters. We've seen him do that in OKC. He just didn't have the guys to knock it down. He's got bona fide shooters now. How do you stop them? I think their only weakness is going to be their bench. That's the question that I have about them. See, I think that having Eric Gordon as the 3rd option, that's going to be enough to be able to sweep the San Antonio Spurs in the 1st round. And I think that Clint Capella is going to be the key to being able to beat the Clippers in round 2. See, when you have Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Eric Gordon, I think that they're going to be able to equal and match the output that you're going to get from Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Lou Williams. But see, it's Clint Capella as that fourth option who I think is going to be that vertical lob threat offensively, but more importantly, he's going to be that rim protector and that rebounder that is going to be much better than what Montrezl Harrell is going to be able to provide on that defensive end. That's why I got the Rockets beating the Clippers in 7 games, which is going to set up that Western Conference matchup between the Rockets and the Lakers. Now, clearly, the perimeter advantage goes to the Rockets, and the interior advantage goes to the Lakers. But the reason why I'm going to be able to pick the Lakers to beat the Rockets in a tough-fought 7-game series is the bench. The Lakers' bench is superior to the Rockets. And I think that's why they're going to be able to move on despite not having home court advantage in that series. So if you watched my last video, I gave you my Eastern Conference predictions. And for those who didn't get a chance to see that, go ahead and click the card right up above. You can take a look at it. But I went ahead and predicted that the Philadelphia 76ers were going to make the finals, which sets them up to do battle with the LA Lakers. Man, you want to talk about battle of the big men and teams that are full of versatility? That's going to be an epic duel. You know what? I think that matchup is so good. I'm going to do a video all to itself on the NBA Finals matchup. Go ahead, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and tap that notification so that when I drop my next video on my NBA Finals matchup preview, you won't miss out on the action.